Hey, it's Angie D. Lee, your intimacy guru. Today, I wanted to talk a little bit about why I chose this profession of intimacy coaching. So, the reason why I really wanted to do this video is because I feel like most of the time when I'm meeting people, I'm networking and things like that, people are like, oh, how did you get into this? And obviously, I am not trying to always give like an hour presentation of how I ended up becoming an intimacy coach. A lot of times you have a few seconds to like win people over and kind of give them a marketing message, so to speak, as to how you ended up here in this field. And so a lot of times I'm talking a lot from a professional standpoint. Obviously, I have spent many years in mental health as a social worker. I've worked with children from birth all the way until adulthood. And so I've really seen how intimacy plays such a huge role in our lives. But I don't always get a chance to talk about it from a personal standpoint. Obviously, when I'm allotted, more time and I can share a little bit more detail about my own life, then I'll go into that. But the opportunity is not always there. But I wanted to share that with you all today as to how I ended up as an intimacy coach and how that kind of just really aligns and plays a role in my own life. And so just to give a little background, I am married. I've been married actually to my high school sweetheart for almost 17 years. We dated in high school for a couple of years, but we actually broke up our senior year, which is like the worst year to break up, when you think about prom and graduation and all that, but that's what happened. And so we've always had a connection from the beginning. Obviously when you meet someone as a kid, someone that's actually seeing you grow and evolve, it's really nothing like it. Obviously everything can have its pros and cons, but it's nothing like someone really knowing you and seeing you from where it all began. So my husband and I met obviously our freshman year of high school. We dated from our sophomore year until senior year, and then we broke up. Right? So, but it's not a bad thing. It was actually a very beneficial thing for the both of us, because we did not reunite until adulthood, and started our life together as partners, husband and wife. So the reason why intimacy coaching plays such a huge role, obviously, in my life and what made me choose this profession is because, again, it's interesting how people view you, right? Like, especially when they don't really know you, they may know of you, or they know a few things, or they see some things, especially in the world of social media. People really only see that highlight, which is understandable, right? Like, I'm not gonna be posting every time I get into bed at night and I have a facial mask on and I'm brushing my teeth and all of those details and things like that. Just like you're not gonna always see the specifics and the ins and outs of my personal relationships with people, including my marriage. So a lot of times, people may see like the pictures and the videos and, your family and all the positive things, which they should. I mean, like, that is a huge part of my life. But for those almost 17 years, we've really experienced a lot together. I find it interesting too when people, I know there's this term in, modern society where it's like couple goals, marriage goals, black love goals, everything is goals, right? But it's a lot of different things that take place behind the scenes to, I guess, get that look of goals, and social media is something that I've embraced because of business. Outside of business, I'm not a huge fan of it. So that's one of those things too that can be a little bit of a balancing act when it comes to sharing more of yourself online and exposing yourself to people, especially when they don't know or they don't have like more so like not just the details but context. They don't really know all of the intricacies of, a picture or a video or even like a reel, like a 60-second reel. Sometimes people just go off of that and then they just assume that it's, that way. So with that being said, my husband and I have really experienced a lot when it comes to personal development, our own growth, individually as well as collectively, and then also having children, so a family. And that's something that, takes a lot of introspection, reflection, healing, a lot of times too, because we're not oversharers, a lot of times people aren't, aware of how our marriage works, like they just kind of see it and it's like, oh, that is amazing, that's beautiful. But it definitely took a lot of work on both of our parts. Growing up together is a very beautiful thing because we know a lot of the same people. We have a lot of similar memories. We can relate to so much. We went to the exact same high school. We graduated the same year. So we know so much about each other, and yet we're still learning so much about each other. And that's the beauty of life. And so I say all that to say is because at the beginning of our marriage, we were still at that stage, that honeymoon stage. Even though we had known each other for years, we were still kind of evolving because when we were in high school, we were kids. By the time we got back together, we were full-fledged adults, and we had experiences individually that we kind of brought into our relationship, our marriage. And then also we had a lot of things that we experienced in our own childhood separately that we were exposed to and grew up around. And, we had different, ideals and family dynamics that, becoming a couple, lifelong partners in a marriage, we really had to learn how to fuse those two together. And I'm pretty sure that that's not always an easy task, but it was something that I knew I wanted to do with him and vice versa. And so when my husband proposed to me, I was only 22. It was my birthday and we were out to eat. And I remember this very vividly. I was on the phone, and while I was on the phone, he pulls out this ring and I'm like, let me call you back. I hang up the phone. And believe it or not, my first reaction was, are you sure about that? Being so young, and I, at the time I was thinking, because I was young, I was like, okay, I'm not pregnant or anything. There are no obligations to him doing this. I mean, I know he's brought it up before and he's talked about marriage and kids, and I'm like, and we didn't really have those examples like that. So, is this something you sure you want to do? I mean, I just really thought, being young and living in the city, I just assumed that he might want to date a little bit more and maybe experience some other things. And, I was kind of stunned, and it's like, I just didn't know, that's like he was that serious. We talked about it because he brought it up quite a few times, but I didn't know that this was something that he wanted to do as soon as we did. So, in that moment, I looked at his face and he was dead serious. And I was like, wait a minute. Okay, let me get this right. You're 22. You're fine. And you want to do this with me forever, forever. And so I just was like, okay, if he's that serious, yeah, let's do this. And I felt like if it wasn't the right decision, I just asked God to give me a sign. I said yes, and I just said, give me a sign. If this is not what I'm supposed to be doing, let a sister know. I know me and you got a connection. So let a sister know if this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. And I never got that sign. And so that's something that I always kind of go back to when we were having some issues in our marriage and trying to figure it out. I was just like, yeah, but I never got that sign that this wasn't what I was supposed to be doing. So let's figure this thing out. And so fast forward, in the throes of the marriage and just everyday life, we went right into some of everything. Like we bought our first home, like it wasn't even a year after we had gotten married. And then our daughter was born right after that, because I found out I was pregnant a couple of months after we got married. And then, just life. We were in school and working, and then I got a master's degree. My husband got his degree in teaching. And so like life was just happening, and modern world, right? And now, social media is big, and the internet, and like, we got this house, and we're trying to juggle all of these different things. And I wasn't prepared for what was to come, which was just the responsibility of making our marriage work. Growing up and being kids and dating, a lot of things just kind of came naturally. All we did was meet up at school, and then we would hang out sometimes after school or on the weekends, and just be kids. And we didn't really have too many obligations. But by the time we were adults and married, so many other things just started coming up that we weren't expecting. For instance, when you're working all day and you get home and you're a little tired, and what those conversations can be like. And sometimes you need some space, and sometimes you don't want to talk about things, and sometimes you desire things, and your partner is just not on the same page with you. And like all of that started, and then you add kids to the mix, and it's like, okay, juggling this, and you're not doing enough, and then what about me? And then like, when are we gonna have quality time? And Angie, like seriously, when was the last time we had sex? And so all of these things started happening. And then also our family dynamics and how that played a role in our personalities and things that we were looking for from our partner based off of what we thought life was supposed to be like. And so it was kind of getting rid of this ideal and really living in the reality that we wanted to create. And so because of that, intimacy began to suffer. And what I mean by that is there were days that connection emotionally became a little less and less. And sometimes the physical connection became less and less. And the void there started to be filled with, oh, I started a new business, so I'm giving all of that attention to that. Or, I'm going to play basketball over here. I'm going to play a video game, or I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And now every day we're pulling apart more and more, And so that's why intimacy is so valuable. And again, I think in modern society and the messages that we get, people just see it as something that is supposed to just happen. It just works. There's chemistry, there's passion. But we also know that those things are fleeting. And a lot of times you can recreate, passion and chemistry, but it takes a little bit more of a thought process and an intention to create those things. And so we've had cycles, like we've literally had cycles in our marriage up and down of like, what is this? And what is the problem? We've known each other forever. Why is this so difficult? And when things start to wane or wean, and there isn't a priority of getting it back on track, before you know it, you look up and you're like, what happened to us? How did we get here? Like, seriously, where did it all start? And sometimes it takes a moment to just really sit and think about the fact that it happened from the beginning. You have to make that intention from day one. When you say I do, or when you say that this is the person I'm going to be with, it needs to be intentional that we are going to do this together. And because we did not have at the time really anyone to talk to about it, when we got married, a lot of our friends weren't. So we were one of those first couples to kind of like figure it out, trial and error. And that was a challenge, in itself. And I remember getting to a point where when I started my business, that became the other love, so to speak, in my life. And I put so much energy and thoughts and intention into that, and it started to take the place of me pouring that back into my partnership with my husband. And it was just a really challenging time and confusing time where I didn't really know, what to do. There were things that I felt that I needed and I desired from my husband, but I didn't know how to say it without it appearing disrespectful or demeaning or diminishing him and his role in my life. And I know that he experienced things as well in terms of communicating with me, because we were just, how I like to say, on two different sides of the hemisphere, but living in the same home. And so what happened was, with time, I felt like maybe this is just not gonna work. Maybe we had our time and it was great, and we met when we were kids and it was a beautiful love story, but that story has ended. And I just felt like I'm coming to terms with that. And I think we need to do this, or it's going to become worse. We're not on the same page. We're arguing all the time, or we're silent. There's no connection. There's nothing, emotionally, physically, anything tying us together. And that was a really, really hard time where I was very quiet. I was quiet just in terms of sharing my feelings with anyone, because I just felt like no one understood. And when you feel like that, and you create that sense of loneliness, or should I say, you feel like there's a sense of loneliness because of what you're going through, and it seems like no one will have the answers for you. And that's what I was looking for. Where's the answer? Can someone please give me the answer so that I can just get through this, and because of our not only age, but just as much as old souls we were, even as kids, we were not prepared for that. And that's only something that comes through life experience, and having someone to kind of walk through this process with you and teach you the tools to kind of bring it back together. And we just didn't have that at the time. We didn't even know where to look, which is interesting because my, background is in social work, but I didn't know, how to really understand what my husband's needs were. And he didn't really know how to understand mine because we didn't really know how to communicate that. So it was a very challenging time. And so we ended up separating, and I was the one that initiated that. And it was difficult. It was very difficult. There were so many things that happened during that separation that I can't even name it all. But I will say there was so much inner work that was being done on both of our parts that we didn't plan for, but we just had no choice. Because I know we both wanted to find some peace, in this situation, whether we were together or not. But it was just so much to go through. And so during that time of doing our inner work, something happened. Something truly happened. And we started to look at each other with a new pair of eyes, so to speak. And I really feel like that's when our marriage was rebirthed, so to speak. And so we started really being a lot more transparent, but being conscious of how to be transparent with each other. Like, this is not it. This is what I've been struggling with. I want you to hear me. I want you to be sensitive to, what I'm going through, but I also want to give you that as well. Like, there were some really hard conversations happening behind closed doors, but it was so needed. And so I attribute that time to where we are now, and why I value how intimacy plays a role. And so, a lot of times when we think intimacy, again, it's not about just Angie, help us to have really good sex, because good sex is subjective, right? And so what may be good sex to one person may not be good sex to another. But one thing I can say is when there's an emotional connection, there's a mental connection too. And even from a spiritual standpoint, you don't necessarily have to be, religious or necessarily believed in some type of doctrine. But a lot of times, if you're on the same page spiritually, that also helps. So by the time you get to sex, that's like a no-brainer, and almost every time is enjoyable because all of those other pieces are in alignment. And that's what I do with people, and that's what I talk about, and just truly understanding that a lot of us crave intimacy. I mean, like that's just a human need. But if we're honest with ourselves, a lot of us did not necessarily get that intimacy that we desired as children. There were times that maybe we were reaching out, whether it was to a parent, or even a teacher or like a friend, and as kids, and we were shunned for, who we were or what we desired and what we needed. And when that is not acknowledged and catered to, where does it go? It stays with you, and you bring that into every single relationship that you have. And so that's why that's so important to me, especially for couples that really actually they want to be together, and there are going to be situations where a marriage or relationship just may not work out for whatever reason. And that's not my role to convince you to stay with someone. But if you want to be with your partner, you want to get that back, and you want to maybe even take it to a whole other level. Maybe you're doing very well in your relationship, but you want to experience more because you care about that person, you love them, and you want to take it to new heights. I work with people on that as well. But I just wanted to kind of give you all a little bit more about me and how I ended up here. And obviously there's so much more that I could share, but I will not sit here and talk for hours about the specifics of my own relationship, my marriage with my husband. But I just wanted to give you all some insight as to I have lived what I am actually, teaching about and sharing about. So firsthand experience and knowledge is nothing like it. I'm glad that I have the professional background as well, obviously, to help people, but I also have a very strong personal experience, and I can really understand when you're at that place in your life and in your relationship and in your marriage, and you're just like, we've hit a wall, and what do we do? What do we do? And who do we talk to about it? And who do we talk to without feeling judged or made to feel small, or our business is not going to get out there for the world, to hear and to see. And those were valid concerns of mine too when, my husband and I were going through that. So I truly understand, but I just wanted to share that with you all. That's pretty much how I got to this point, being, having that experience is something that I really value, because now I really understand why all of the things happened the way that they did, and how beautiful it is to be able to pour that back into another couple. So I hope you all enjoyed that. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, feel free to share. If you just want to do a consultation, I do offer free 30-minute consultations just to talk about where you are in your relationship and your marriage. And if you're looking to actually work with me, I would love to hear, where you are in your life right now and what you're looking to achieve. So please be sure to send me an email at Angie@angiedlee.com. Feel free to visit my website at www.angiedlee.com. I am also on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter under Intimacy Coach. So that's IN, the number 2, MESEECOACH. And also on YouTube, look me up, Angie D. Lee on YouTube, and you'll see videos where I just chat about a lot of different things as it pertains to intimacy in relationships. So I look forward to connecting with you. I hope this video was helpful for you to just kind of get a little bit more insight into me and how I ended up here and why I'm so passionate about this topic. So yeah, connect with me. I cannot wait to talk with each of you.